the Church of Jesus Christ.
Is a fraud. The enemies of the church understand this clearly, so plain and precious.
All right, Travis Wayne Goodsell. I'm hoping that this can be my retirement video. Will you let it be? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claims to be Christian. That is the seed from which everything about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints springs from. Has nothing to do with Joseph Smith and the first vision, doesn't have to do with the Book of Mormon. Because the interpretation by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints means it's Christian. So the interpretation of the Book of Mormon, the interpretation of the first vision is a consequence of the seed of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claiming to be Christian. And so, running the biblical text, the test, by their fruits ye shall know them. In Alma chapter 32, starting in verse 28, we will liken the word unto a seed. So the seed of Christianity plugged into the Book of Mormon to Joseph Smith produces an error alert. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is false as Christian. And this is too complicated for Mormons. For example, on my video I did as a Jasmine comment reply video, Jasmine's investigating the church. She's actually reading and studying the primary source documents of the church from the Joseph Smith papers. And so the video was titled Investigator Confusion with Chapter Headings in the Book of Mormon. And it's got Bruce R. McConkie's cover of his edited 1966 edition. And you may be thinking, well, I'm kind of curious, this is weird, why is Bruce R. McConkie's Mormon Doctrine the thumbnail picture, but the title says the Book of Mormon chapter headings? Yeah, there are prerequisite knowledge that you need to have, and I go over it in this video for you, but not in detail. And so as a result, when I don't cover every single issue in every single video without fail, there is a Mormon ready to pounce. Remember, the church isn't true as Christian. The prophets demand and insist they're Christian. That the Book of Mormon is Christian. That Joseph Smith is Christian. The Book of Mormon says it's the religion of the Jews. Oops. And so Mormonism is a fraud. And so Ronald Bissett, 3 hours ago, so 2 in the morning. What are you doing up at 2 in the morning, Ronald? Okay, bye. I got to 10 minutes, 19 seconds, and couldn't stand your forced. Did you read the thumbnail picture? He did. See, he's attacking me. My channel, my video content, and on the home page you can read. My channel, I had this changed, is about informing Mormons about the Jewish religion of Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon. That we're not Christian. Mormons do not investigate my channel. They do not check me out. They do not learn They don't want to learn. Ronald believed that the video was talking about the church in a faith-promoting way and got to 10 minutes, 19 seconds in and realized that it's not faith promotion. And so he's emotionally upset, and he's emotionally projecting the beam and the mote. You always fall for it, Mormons. And so, what's the attack? Is it about the substance of the video? Nope. Ad hominem. The typical Mormon response. When the church is threatened, attack people's character. And so, he says, my forced and feigned laughter. He's upset with it. The church is a fraud. It's false. Are you not familiar with Elijah and the priests of Baal? What does Elijah do while they're cutting themselves? Desperately trying to prove their God is real. He mocks them. Mormons can't understand this. It's like the priests of Baal are accusing Elijah of mocking them, when the plain and simple fact is their God failed to show on 8 April 2024. And if you have no clue what I'm talking about, that's what we're going over. I have a list. I'll make sure to follow it to make sure everything is covered, because this is intending to be my last video. But there's some news stuff that is going to keep me around. It's pissing me off. You're late. Enemy is just so incompetent. Unbelievable. I did all my part. The enemy won't do theirs. And so he says you either have something legitimate to say or you don't. Yeah, okay. So you apparently didn't listen, because you're not telling me what isn't legitimate. But for something as serious as your efforts to denounce the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he's a denialist of church history. He's a denialist of the Book of Mormon. He's a denialist of Joseph Smith. Your silliness alone destroys your credibility. Nope, it doesn't. It's an ad hominem attack. It doesn't destroy my credibility. You are unable to handle the reality that the church is false. This is what I've had to deal with all these years. I've been trying to save your lives, and you missed the Exodus, because this is what you don't understand, is that the Bible also is in the learning of the Jews. All of it. Yeah, that New Testament, it shouldn't be called the New Testament. It should be called Prophecies and Revelations of the Jews. Book of Genesis, Book of Exodus, Book of Leviticus, Book of Numbers, Book of Deuteronomy, Book of Jesus, Joshua, Book of Matthew, Book of Mark, Book of Luke, Book of John, etc. All of it. And even stuff the Christian church refused to put in. The Book of Jasher, for example. The reason why is because these are all prophecies of the latter days. And I put them to the test to find out if they are true. Not through feelings. You've misunderstood Moroni chapter 10, verses 3 through 5. The Book of Mormon is Jewish. Moroni is in accordance with Alma chapter 32, starting in verse 28. You are required to study your scriptures. When I pull out a passage from the scriptures, you're supposed to check it. You're not just supposed to assume you know it all, or you're not going to bother, so that you won't be held accountable for knowledge. You know you cannot be saved in ignorance, and yet you still pull these stupid stunts to deny yourself accountability. And that's only getting it worse for your accountability. Because if you actually believe that Jesus is real and that when you die you'll stand before Jesus, and Jesus will ask you, so have you studied the Book of Mormon? And you go, no, I didn't want to be held accountable. Do you think Jesus is just going to say, oh, good for you, come on in. Here's the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. Here's your 10 virgin wives. Seriously? Do you not understand how stupid you are to think this way? See, the other option is that you're a knowingly Danite denialist, and that you're just mocking Mormonism, claiming that it's true and forcing it onto other people with your Christian interpretation of abomination. Because there's history that is being denied also. The history of the creation of Christianity, the history of the creation of Islam, the history of the Jews. Everybody's a denialist. Nobody wants to go back to the historical origins. And those who are in the wrong purposely don't want to go back to the origins because it proves they're wrong. And so they make other excuses. Oh, we're not going to deal with the history. We're going to deal with right here and now. No, you can't do that with the Jews. And so there are lots of problems that are rising up as a result. And so the Book of Mormon teaches you the learning of the Jews. It doesn't just say it's in the learning of the Jews and doesn't bother to instruct you on what the learning of the Jews is. And so it goes over the concept of prophecy and revelation, as right there in the first chapter of the first book of the Book of Mormon, we are given the date for the latter days from Revelation chapter 12. Verses 1, 2, and 5, which the Joseph Smith translation moves to verse 3, which means they know the date. It's not moved there by spirit. I'm just going to move this verse to this verse. That feels better. No. John is giving you an actual date. But those who deny science of astronomy, 8 April 2024, that's Revelation 19. They don't want to see it. Because as a Christian person maliciously inserted into Matthew, no man knows the day or the hour. Oops. It's all over the book of Matthew, because it's written in prophecy and revelation. Prophecy is predicting the future. Revelation is predicting the day and the hour, the time of the prophesied events. Thus, the book of Revelation. They're giving you the day and the hour. But you need to use Jewish interpretation, not Christian interpretation. It's not literal history. None of the stories are literal history, though they utilize characters from literal history. But that's where the confusion comes in. If you use Christianity, nothing makes sense. It's all out of order. And Christians have been pushing for a long time now to rewrite history in accordance with the literal history interpretation of the Bible. Likewise, Mormons keep pushing for the literal history rewriting of history of the Americas, to push for the Nephites and Lamanites to be the literal American Indians. That is not the intention. But yes, Joseph Smith did refer to the Native American Indians as Lamanites. He's trying to help you bridge the gap, because they are symbols in the Book of Mormon. And Joseph Smith, to help you out, if you can't figure it out from the Book of Mormon, gave you the key to deciphering the Book of Mormon. I'm supposed to be following the list, and I'm not doing it. And so in section 103 of the Doctrine and Covenants, verses 16 and 17, this is the learning of the Jews. This is the characters for the latter days. Therefore, I will raise up unto Mormons. A child will be born among Mormons in the latter days, a man who shall lead the Mormons like as Moses. That's the Jewish Christ of the latter days. He's called Messiah ben David. His name is he who is from the crossroads of the sun god, because the sun creates crossroads on earth during eclipses. 3 days of darkness, precisely. Those 3 days of darkness, casting their roads on the earth, cast them on America, the United States of America, forming the Paleo-Hebrew letter A, the first letter. An exact pattern match, because that's what you do in science. You look for pattern matches, and then when you discover an anomaly, you develop a logically sound Socratic methodology theory that can be tested immediately, not hypothetically tested if certain conditions were met. No, that's an illegitimate theory. It needs to be dismissed. It needs to be testable now. By this, you will know the truth. You will know the facts. There is no other way to obtain facts. And if you're saying, well, but that scriptures, yeah, I told you. We will liken the word unto a seed, and by their fruits we shall know them. That's the exact same scientific process with logical Socratic methodology. It's called the science of agronomy. And it's all over the Jewish scriptures. See what Christianity did damage to with your brains. You are denialists of history, you are denialists of science, and thus denialist of education. You need to wipe your brain of all things Christian interpretation. Joseph Smith tried to teach this to you. The first vision. It's not Jesus. Why are you putting in Jesus? Because now there's confusion. Because the first creed of Christianity, which Jesus calls an abomination? What? That was the creation of Jesus in the first place. How could Jesus be appearing to Joseph Smith if Jesus is saying he's an abomination? You're not making any sense. You're causing confusion. And Joseph Smith likewise has that, is it section 123? Where he discusses the creed. Yeah, false creeds from 7 to 10. It is an imperative duty that we owe to God, to angels with whom we shall be brought to stand. Remember, standing before Jesus? And also to ourselves, to our wives and children, who have been made to bow down with grief, sorrow, and care under the most damning hand of murder, tyranny, and oppression, supported and urged on and upheld by the influence of that spirit which hath so strongly riveted the creeds of the fathers. The Nicene Creed. Who have inherited lies upon the hearts of the children of men, and filled the world with confusion, and has been growing stronger and stronger, and is now the very mainspring of all corruption. And the whole earth groans under the weight of its iniquity. It is an iron yoke. It is a strong band. They are the very handcuffs and chains and shackles and fetters of hell. Murdered under its iron hand, which dark and blackening deeds are enough to make hell itself shudder, and to stand aghast and pale, and the hands of the very devil to tremble and palsy. Joseph Smith was in Liberty Jail. This was March 1839. This was supposedly when Thomas B. Marsh was excommunicated. It's been changed to in absentia, but that other guy didn't. He got excommunicated by Joseph somehow. You know, unbelievable. The church still pushes the spilled milk of Thomas B. Marsh's wife. And this is what Mormons refuse to see and are in denial of. The Tannites. They framed Joseph Smith. They got Joseph in trouble and took over his church. The Joseph Smith Papers. See, I don't have time to go over it all again. I have to only do a summary of it for you. The Joseph Smith Papers, put out by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They themselves say it's the authoritative source for all things Joseph Smith, and have refused to further publish the Joseph Smith history because Willard Richards tampered with it. And the Joseph Smith history includes the Joseph Smith history of 1838 canonized in our scriptures, and the church won't change it and correct it to remove Willard Richards' editings, for which the church no longer publishes the history of the church. See the confusion the church is causing. The church purposely expects you not to study and look it up, not to make the connections. They don't want you to know because they don't have authority. They themselves declare that they deny the power of prophecy and revelation. They will not predict the future. They will not reveal the day and hour, time of the latter days. And they didn't, true to their word, because the latter days are over. You missed it. The prophets have deceived you and have caused you to miss the latter days. And so we didn't finish with section 103, did we? Got sidetracked. For Mormons are the children of Israel and the seed of Abraham, and must be led out of bondage. Who holds people in bondage? Christianity. Islam is a branch of Christianity, if you know the history of Islam. They take away agency. Who's the founder of taking away agency? All Mormons know it. It's exclusive doctrine. Joseph Smith tried numerous ways to let you know Christianity is the great and abominable church, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claims to be Christian. Christianity is the great enemy of the Jews. And Brigham Young, turning the church Christian, became the enemy of Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith knew this, 19 July 1840 in the Joseph Smith Papers. For Mormons to live in denialism, and especially if you are knowingly as a Danite, makes you the enemy. Okay? And so, all prophecies of the Jews, all stories, have to have these characters put in the story now. And so the protagonist of each and every single story is the Jewish Christ, whom Joseph Smith would be raised up as Mormon in the latter days. 2 Nephi chapter 3 verse 5. First comes Joseph Smith to set up the church, to set up the temple, to set up the rituals, and will be murdered according to the prophecies of the Jews concerning Messiah ben Joseph. That's what 2 Nephi chapter 3 is explaining to you. The learning of the Jews concerning the two main Christs for the latter days. Joseph Smith is the founding Christ of Mormonism in the learning of the Jews. Christians find this abominable when they're abominable. You know, beam and mode. And so Mormons were supposed to look for their latter-day Christ, who would be born a Mormon. And all those prophecies are about him. All you had to do was plug this in to learn about him so that you would know him when he comes. That he has the gifts of prophet, seer, revelator, translator of Paleo, Hebrew, and Egyptian, so that you would not be confused by men claiming the titles, but denying the power thereof, because they have no fruit, which means they're false. automatically. That's a no-brainer if you actually believe the Bible. Matthew chapter 7. By their fruits ye shall know them. There are no fruits. We now know them as frauds, because they self-proclaim, we are not prophets, we are not seers, we are not revelators, and they never claim the title, let alone the power of translation of Paleo, Hebrew, and Egyptian. They self-proclaim, we deny the power thereof. They will never predict the future. They will never give you the day and time. That is a denouncement of the power of prophecy and revelation, of which they claim the titles. Mormons have no argument to defend the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I shouldn't have to keep repeating it in multiple ways. And so everything the church does, everything the church says is wrong. They're holding you in bondage. That's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons. They're the great and abominable church, holding you in bondage. And you're supposed to find and listen to your Christ to save you. And you never bothered to look, because you never bothered to believe. And so you've been under condemnation for not studying your Book of Mormon. And so you'll never know who your Christ is, even if he's staring you right in the face and giving you props in the background, because you will never believe it. You don't believe in the learning of the Jews. It has to be Christian. You are a denialist of history. You are a denialist of the truth. You are the enemy. It's real simple. Logical, Socratic methodology. And you're a denialist of it. Okay, let's see what I can cross off the list here. So, check. So, yeah, go through your scriptures now. Jesus. It's not Jesus. It's the Mormon who is your Christ. And so, who is Caiaphas? The high priest. Yeah, that's President Nelson, because he was the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints during the latter days. And he ordered the murder of the Christ. But the Christ doesn't actually die. It's the sign of his death. Because the last letter of Paleo Hebrew is the cross. The final day of darkness over the United States of America, which we just had, forms the first letter of the Paleo Hebrew alphabet. 2 crosses. He who is from the crossroads of the sun god. This is their manner of prophesying and revealing to you what they prophesy. And so you can go to the Joseph Smith history, Revelation chapter 12. Remember, verse 3 got created, moved from verse 5. Yeah, verse 1. Sign in the heaven in the likeness of things on the earth. Sign in the heaven is the time and the date, day and hour. Revelation, things on the earth, prophecies, predictions of the future. They knew. They're trying to teach you. It was in our canon. We had acquired it for the 1979 edition of the Bible. They chose to keep it a sacred secret from you, purposely making the lessons for the New Testament year so many so that you wouldn't be able to cover Revelation 12. And of course, they only summarize it with what the Joseph Smith translation says. Because they have no authority. They deny the power. They cannot reveal this to you. They have no courage. Alright, let's see. All Jewish prophecies have been fulfilled. The Jewish Christ showed up. He did his part. Mormons didn't believe. Joseph Smith warns Mormons about this in his second vision, which again the church refuses to correct. Verse 40, explaining to you who your Christ is, and that you need to hearken to him, or precisely as it stands in our New Testament, which you're supposed to check. You're not just supposed to say, oh, I guess it's cut off, so I don't need to check. Mormons who will not hear their Christ's voice should be destroyed from among the people. This is the danger. Jesus didn't show, not of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, not of Christianity, not of Islam. All three Jesuses failed to show. I'm wondering how many of the leaders have been cutting themselves trying to get him to show. Islam uses the sword in their flags. Should tell you all you need to know about them. Okay, we got that. And so all these years I've been also teaching you about the real church history. Going over from the Joseph Smith papers when I learned about them. And so all my videos need to be gone through and cut and pasted into their categories. Because I've been going over corrections of scripture, explaining doctrine, going over administration, going over ritual, going over the history, going over I already said ritual, doctrine, but everything. Trying to help you understand. And if I had known now what I knew then, or know then what I knew now, yeah, I would have designed YouTube differently. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. And too many Mormons are more interested in an ad hominem attack to deny their responsibility and accountability to know the information. It is you that are going to be held responsible. And so, I've been also explaining real history for you. The origin of the Jews on the hill, or the mountainside, or the mountain hamlet of Salem. Been explaining the origin of Christianity with the first creed, explaining a musion for you. It means not real. Right there in the creed, it says Jesus is not real. And yet, everybody claims he's real. Everybody is a denialist. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claiming that everything about the first creed is true except for the nature and character of Jesus. No. You can't change the nature and character and then keep everything else in the first creed. Everything is wrong. Everything is abominable. They turned the Jewish scriptures into literal history, denying the power of prophecy and revelation. They are denying history. They are denying science, agronomy, the process for learning truth. Christianity is the enemy. Islam, by branching out from Christianity, is the enemy. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, by claiming to be Christian, is the enemy. How many times do I have to keep repeating this? In different ways for you. When are you gonna get it? So, got that. So, yeah, done with that one. Buy fruits. Created a new special clip for this video. Need to remember to put it in. Okay. And so, everything happened for the latter days. Jewish prophecy was fulfilled. Christ showed, he warned Mormons, he came to Utah to warn Mormons, and Mormons didn't believe, as also was prophesied. Book of Mormon. Again, same thing. Plug in section 103, verses 16 and 17, and the characters to replace the characters in the Book of Mormon. So Lehi, very first chapter of the first book. Lehi is the Mormon. He gets his first vision, then he gets his second vision. This is the exact same pattern match to Joseph Smith. And therefore he gets the date. He's starting his ministry 23rd September 2017 from Revelation chapter 12 verses 1, 2, and 5. That gets moved to verse 3. The Book of Mormon starts us off at the beginning of the latter days. The rewritten 116 pages starts us off at the beginning of the latter days. And so he then preaches to Mormons. Mormons reject his words. They want to murder him. He is then told, you have to flee for your life, and thus an Exodus pattern. He, however, is able to get a wife and kids and another family with daughters for his boys. That didn't happen. But as you see, the Book of Mormon has a number of different Exodus patterns throughout the Book of Mormon. The prophecies of the Christ in the Bible and other texts rejected talk about him having 2 failed marriages. And so the division between the Lamanites and the Nephites show the difference between Christianity of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, yeah, you're Lamanites, and those who believe in the Christ and follow him. And so, in 2020, as the brilliant author of the rewritten 116 pages prophesies and reveals to us exclusively, he gives us the date, the year for the Exodus, which you missed. It was in 2020. Go over the Exodus story. What are the events that occur in the Exodus? Go back to 2020. Yeah, your Christ sued the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Your Christ tried to free you from bondage, was warning you. Your Christ parted the waters, and creeping death occurred. The other stuff, sun shall be darkened, 3 days of darkness, the plagues and the drought, that comes from the waters parting and the dry land appearing. And then the stars falling from heaven. All of it occurred in 2020. And you missed it. Because you were thinking Christian. You were thinking Jesus. Jesus didn't show. But the Jewish Christ, who was Mormon, showed. He was there for you, and you denied him, and you rejected him, and you sought to murder him with death threats and hate comments and denialisms called testimonies and personal witnesses of feelings. You hate when you replace the Jews with Christianity. You hate Joseph Smith because you turned him Christian. You hate the Book of Mormon because you turned it Christian. Another testament of Jesus Christ. You are the enemy. You are not good. You aren't capable of doing good. You must purge your brain from Christianity and reprogram it with the learning of the Jews. That's called repentance. Change your mind. Metanao, however it's pronounced in the Greek. Turn your direction in Hebrew. Alright. And so, despite everything happening, the enemy failed. They did not fulfill their day that shall burn as an oven. Oops. They did not conquer America. Oops. They did not destroy the world. Oops. And so, because they failed in 2020, they're doing it this year. See, again, only the leaders are aware of the dates from Revelation and are using it to coordinate their attack. But the Christians of Christianity, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Islam, clueless. They know nothing about dates, because as far as they know, no man knows the day or the hour. Joseph Smith knew, at least by 1838, because he refers to Revelation chapter 12. That's what he's referring to with the Urim and Thummim, being an exact pattern match with the Book of Mormon. He then also worked on the Book of Abraham papyrus, as he called it, and specifically chose only 3 facsimiles to give an explanation and put them in the specific order that he put them in. He knew by then. Whether he knew, it seems unclear, because he does make a repeat from Matthew in one of the Doctrine and Covenants passages, where he says, no man knows the day or the hour, when talking to, is it Thomas B. Marsh or somebody else? But no, Joseph Smith knew, eventually. So yes, the author of the rewritten 116 pages, therefore, is not Joseph Smith Jr. Notice I said Jr. that time. I've already told you all the information. Joseph Smith Sr. rewrote the 116 pages. We only have this church and the Book of Mormon because of the events that happened at the lodge, the Freemason York Rite Lodge of Joseph Smith Sr. in Canandaigua, New York on 9/11/1826. If those events did not happen, we would not have the church. We would not have the Book of Mormon. And so Exfo Nevermos would be non-existent. There would be nothing for it. And still, Exfo Nevermos are not getting it either. They're not using the learning of the Jews. They keep battling Mormons who throw out all the branch-offs to claim the core is true, that the church is Christian, that the Book of Mormon is Christian, that Joseph Smith is Christian. When all anybody needs to do is say, you're not supposed to be Christian. What are you talking about? The debate is now over. The Mormon lost. The church is false. Automatically. There is no debate to be had. The church is starting out with a false premise, a false conclusion, technically, based on the false premises. You cannot claim to be Christian. Nobody can. Christians can't claim to be Christian because the Bible is Jewish. Islam can't claim to be Islamic Christian because Christianity is wrong. You've replaced the Jews too. Automatically, instantly wrong. You are not a legitimate religion. You are a fraud, a militant fraud. And so, we're waiting for the fall of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and all of Christianity. It's in the process right now. They failed in 2020, but here they go. The church had to pay government leaders and religious leaders of Islam after they failed in 2020. Apparently, MAGA evangelicals suck at conquering America. Remember January 6th? 3rd Nephi, chapter 7. Are you going to look it up? I can't explain all the videos I've already done for you in this video. We're already at 53 minutes. And so we're waiting. And we are told they will not fail this time. And so all of these separate attacks are all led by the puppet master, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who have paid the Judas price to make it happen this year because they failed. Nelson failed to finish the temple. Nelson failed to finish the palace for Jesus. Nelson failed to have the throne for Jesus made. And so Jesus didn't show for conference weekend to suddenly come to his temple at the great rededication ceremony that was supposed to be held on Saturday. Oops. And so Jesus didn't get coronated. Jesus didn't get sealed to all of the sister missionaries. He's got to get married. Did you not know that? Oh, you're using Christianity interpretation, are you? Yeah. Jewish interpretation, he's supposed to get married to be coronated as king. And so, yeah, it requires a woman to believe and be married to the Mormon Christ. Nope. No believers, no takers. They'd rather have Mormonism die than sacrifice one of the women to be his wife. Oh my God. And so, yeah, everybody is threatening that the election will be it. Government will fall. But Islam is doing very well despite MAGA's failures. See, Trump is not getting the protests for his crimes. He's being abandoned. And because of that, Islam is now stepping up as Plan B, which is actually C, D, E, or F, because they keep failing. And so Islam's attack on October 7th is succeeding. They are denying history, they're purposely lying and deceiving to threaten people to side with them against Israel. And it's spreading across the world. Governments are being threatened to deny the Christ. Or not the Christ, but the Jews. Israel. They're not pro-Palestinian. You can't be a protester in favor of something. You're protesting against something. They are against Israel. They're calling for the death of Israel. Government leaders are Islamist throughout the world. They have spread around the world, claiming asylum from their abusive militant organizations in the nations that they were in, and have risen up in number, risen up in authority, and boom, they struck. The UN fully compromised by Islam. And so yes, even in America, they have risen into government authority. And so they're aiding and inciting the protests at the universities. They have found their way in. And so they're waiting for the police to brutalize them. Because that's what they do in America. Then they can claim to be the victims, and then they can claim that the government needs to change and deny support for Israel. This is their plot. And so I'm very curious about the University of Utah last night, as the press is also supporting Islam, refusing to call it a terrorist attack on the whole world, not just America, but calling them pro-Palestinian protesters, because they're not calling Russia pro-Russian militant force. They're calling it correctly in the Ukraine genocide. But did you not catch on to that? Every other conflict around the world, the press gets it right. But Islam attacking Israel, they're failing. They're not doing their job. They're calling it incorrectly. They're wrong. They're attacking Israel. Except for Fox. Oh my God. Purposely setting up Trump to be the savior of the Jews. If Islam cannot destroy America first, if the election cannot destroy America, Trump being the savior of the Jews is only going to happen if Trump wins the election. And Biden, the peaceful transition of authority. What are you doing? You're handing over America to a guy who's going to get revenge and destroy America. He's already told us that's what he's going to do. So it's very curious. And so, the University of Utah. These little kids do not know about Utah law. there are laws for protesting, specifically to protect the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But they have to make them generally, so that all protests must follow the particular processes and procedures for the state of Utah. There's a reason why protesters are no longer allowed to protest on Temple Square. They have to be zoned far away so that the church doesn't hear the protest, which is the whole point of a protest. We disapprove of what you're doing. Stop. The church got the Mormon government to make this change. And you have to get permission from the government in advance to have a specific license to protest. Filling out the forms of what your protest is about, what you've planned to do, how you plan to organize it, how you plan to provide for sanitation and cleaning and things to do. Because they were wanting to set up tents at the University of Utah and get the foothold, like in Columbia. And so, yes, last night, after I did my video on it, the government, the city at least, if not Governor Cox, he also made a statement, but the protest was declared illegal. They did not follow the proper processes and procedures for the laws of Utah. This was all organized by groups that are funded from Islamic organizations that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints paid the government leaders and the religious leaders to funnel the money for. The church paid for the protests around the world and specifically here in Utah as well. Fox News, amazing. They traced the money to who's funding it. And the church paid, and those government and religious leaders paid these groups that are funding the protests. Remember, it's the great and abominable church. It's even led by Lucifer. That's the baby name meaning of Marion Nelson, or Russell Marion. Lucifer is the head of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Amazing. And so the kids are threatening to come back today. It's unclear as to when they'll decide to show up, if it's right now it's now 6:45. Hold on. Get to that later. That project is still going. And so they are threatening to keep pushing to demand that Utah and the University of Utah not support Israel, not support the Jews. The Jews in Utah are now under threat of their lives. Anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, Jews are now under threat of extermination. And so I'm very well aware of this. The Book of Mormon says it's Jewish. Joseph Smith, Jewish. I have the prop that I've been showing you. I am very well aware, but I will not deny the truth. Mormons under Joseph Smith denied the truth and joined Brigham Young's Danites. And so the question is now being posed to Mormons, who are denying the truth and joining the Danites. You have failed your second estate, Mormons. And so, as I've warned, in the United States, Islamic centers are by far more numerous in this Salt Lake Valley than anywhere else in the United States. This valley, that should concern you, because they're positioned in places where they can cause damage, preventing outside help getting in and inside people escaping. And with this protest, I don't think I read it. I intended to. I had it on the screen first. It's the Book of Mormon, the fall of the great and abominable church. First Nephi, chapter 22, verse 13. After talking about the Mormon Christ will bring Mormons out of captivity, and Mormons shall be gathered together to Zion, and they shall be brought out of obscurity and out of darkness of Christianity, and they shall know that he is their Christ. And the blood of that great and abominable church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Christianity and Islam, which is the whore of all the earth, shall turn upon their own heads. For they shall war among themselves, and the sword of their own hands shall fall upon their own heads, and shall be drunken with their own blood. And great shall be the fall thereof. They shall fall in the pit which they have digged to ensnare the people of the Lord. So just as Utah created a law to protect the church and cause harm to anybody who's been harmed by the church, that's the pit that the Mormons dug to protect the church and destroy the church's enemies when the church is the enemy. This is the pit that I'm seeing getting exposed right now, that Utah is going to fall into, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is going to fall into. The enemy of the parable of section 101, starting in verse 43, specifically verse 51, that Joseph Smith expands upon in 19 July 1840, about the fall of America, the fall and destruction of the Constitution of the United States of America, upon the brink of ruin. Mormons are supposed to have saved it. Instead, Mormons were there at January 6. Mormons were there at the University of Utah. Mormons are warring amongst themselves. If they keep coming back and pushing this fight in Utah, despite the arrests, as Islam in this valley gets triggered, as sleeper cells activated, claiming to be victims of Utah, who took them in, giving them asylum. And now, by letting them in, just like the snake and the girl, We knew who they were when we let them in. And now they're biting. This is what you need to watch for. Will Islam in Utah rise up as the rest of the world and claim to be victims of the government denying them to protest for the death of Israel? Or will the military might used during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020 shut them down, whereas the rest of the world not? But again, if they claim to be victims, they will put out the call, and the rest of the world of Islam will come and attack Utah. This is only escalating. I am not seeing it getting shut down anytime soon. The military or the National Guard is not coming in yet. It's still being allowed to fester. We're waiting for a 9/11 event because they've failed in 2020. And so now Islam is the latest attempt to make this happen so that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can overthrow the government and get their kingdom back and put Mormons into bondage. This is the pit that the church has digged, and it's about to collapse on them. The Book of Mormon and the prophecies are happening. You have denied. So pay attention to that. Because I don't want to have to do videos anymore. I want to retire. And so yeah, there's tons of projects that I have to do. I have to organize all the pictures that I've gotten. I have to organize all the documents that I've obtained, all the videos about the news and what has happened during the latter days and the historical information. All of it needs to be put into an organized filing. And it would be great if there were people helping me. It's a massive project. I'm the only one with all of the documented information. And so it's a little tough for somebody else to want to start collecting at this point. It's kind of a little late. There's way too much for you to collect now. And so this is a project that I see for Zion if we were to ever get it. But currently, as it stands, there is not enough people to build Zion. There are not enough believers. There needs to be believers. And I'll cover that last. And so, yeah, we're actually about done. Cool. As those of you who have been following for at least a little while and saw the particular videos, you will know that I had a chart about the deaths of the presidents of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in connection with patterns for signs in the heavens of sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood. And I was trying to figure out if Nelson was going to die within this pattern. Because this isn't up to me. Nelson not dying during Passover is not my fault. This is the pattern that I caught. After Monson died, I went, wait a minute, I wonder if, and I checked, and I did. This is a lot of work I had to do. And so, yeah, Joseph Smith was murdered. And I knew that Brigham Young was the one behind it, who ordered it, set it up, and paid the Judas price to have Joseph murdered. And so official declaration number 1, verse 11? Hilarious. But Mormons want to claim that I'm an ad hominem attack on me so that they can discredit me. So that they can stand before Jesus and claim ignorance to be saved. So they can't be held accountable. Deuteronomy 19 is the Jewish law concerning those who are false accusers, who are false witnesses. This is where Purim comes from. Those who try to dig a pit by falsely accusing and getting them punished is the punishment that the false accuser is to receive. Purim, Book of Esther. The weapon used to murder the innocent is the weapon to be used on the person committing it. Thus the Book of Mormon that I just went over with you. 1 Nephi chapter 22 of the fall of the great and abominable church. It's not just the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's also Christianity, it's also Islam. They're all Christian. They're all the great and abominable church. And that's what I'm wanting, that's what I'm paying attention to. Islam is succeeding so far. The pit which they are digging is going to be the pit that they will fall into. There are other documents from Albert Pike, for example, who claims that they are plotting this, and it is going to get very ugly and violent, and that Christianity will fall, so that the Church of Jesus Christ of Lucifer Saints will prevail. That was Albert Pike talking about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the doctrine and Church of Lucifer, taking away agency, your underwear, the symbol of your bondage. And you got to keep it a secret. You got to cover it up and hide it so that nobody knows you're in slavery to the church as you're trying to convert them, so that they become enslaved to the church. Can't tell investigators the truth. It's Christian. It's not Jewish. And so I ran the test. And yep, there are some anomalies, but the anomalies are explained. And so with Thomas S. Monson, the one who died at the beginning of the latter days, for Nelson to take over. Sure enough, his was on a scriptural prophecy and revelation. Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. Stars falling from the tail of the dragon. Quadrantid meteor showers when Monson died. And so he then gets the first day of darkness, even though that doesn't fit the pattern. Because he's in the first year. The first year is started with the first day of darkness on the 21st of August 2017, which was the ancient religious Egyptian calendar New Year. The Egyptians knew, thus the Jews knew. And so, lunar eclipse as well. And so, not dying during the tetrad of 21 and 22, I was concerned. I didn't think there was going to be a lunar eclipse. I knew there was going to be solar eclipses. And then I found, right before it happened, there was a penumbral eclipse on Purim this year. And then we had the final day of the latter days with the final day of darkness. The latter days are over now. We're into the millennium. There is no Zion. There aren't enough believers to build Zion. But the pattern is such that we have until about May 8th, which is a week away. But as we just finished Passover, I was hoping it was going to fall on Passover, because that would again tie into a scripture and the pattern. Prophecy and revelation. And it's on a Jewish holy day. And it didn't. So I'm kind of disappointed, because it's not up to me. There's some other power that is able to take these presidents' lives under a pattern. And the perfect opportunity came and went. So I don't know when Nelson's going to die, but it's not up to me. People don't seem to understand this. They look for any excuse to say I'm false, when I, by my existence, am true. Nobody wants to understand this. Everybody wants to think that if they can prove I'm false, therefore Jesus is true, because Constantine said he's a museon, not real. Oh my God, what are you doing? Stop it. And so, yeah, despite this frustration, maybe Oaks contracted a virus, creeping death, while in the Philippines dedicating the temple, and came back and yesterday exposed the rest of the prophets, and in the next couple of days they're all going to die. I can sort of count that, because he did it on Saturday, which was Sunday out in the Philippines. Yeah, I think it was that way. Because they're ahead of us, I think. Or are they behind us? Regardless, it was the weekend. And so, yeah, I don't know. That would be hilarious. And, they are the enemy, remember? The pit which they digged is the pit they fall in. And so, yes, it's okay to mock the enemy. You've got to make sure they're the enemy first before you start mocking them. You can't go after innocent Mormons who, if you were just to explain it to them, Book of Mormon, learning of the Jews, not Christian. Oh, okay. So it doesn't do any good to mock people who just need to be educated properly, who would, if they were educated properly, change their mind, turn their direction. Only those Mormons that are denialists can you mock. Of course, you got to expect that the Mormons are going to try to claim victim. All right, so, yeah. The Book of Mormon talks about small groups who form an exodus, who are under threat of attack by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Alma and the priest of King Noah, for example, those who believed Abinadi went with him to the waters of Mormon. They had to do it in secret. They couldn't let Nelson? No. As there are Mormons who are spies who are going to narc to Nelson about this group and send the military force of Utah to shut them down. But this is where I don't know. I don't know the total number of believers out there. And yeah, I don't know who the spies are, because there are spies on my YouTube channel. I got attacked yesterday because I didn't put out a video quick enough for them. They want to know what I'm up to, what I'm threatening to lie about the church about. And so, in any kind of organization, you need to be able to gather the people together who are believers. But because it's a national security threat, and it's a threat to your lives, yeah, there's the tendency to be afraid and to be doubtful of the truth. And so, unfortunately, I'm not able to discuss only with those who believe on YouTube, because there are too many Mormons who are spies, who come to attack, who come to destroy. YouTube even is a part of it, to attack anybody who support me. There have been those who have been shut down by YouTube because YouTube is the enemy. And anybody who supports me, YouTube attacks, not just me. And so it's making it complicated and difficult for those who believe to gather together so that we can discuss and plan how to leave and form Zion. Now, yes, the prophecies say that we're supposed to be funded by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, according to the false accusations, are also confessing that they are supposed to hand it over to us. Because there is no Jesus. Jesus didn't show, so Nelson doesn't have to give the money in the church to Jesus. Oh, I guess I'll just keep it and keep collecting money until America falls, and then we get our kingdom. And that's what the money is for, is to build the kingdom. But they've got to do it before the economy collapses, because the money will then be worthless. All the trillions they've been hoarding will fall into the pit which they have digged for the Mormons. All that money worthless. So, yeah, interesting. And in a digital age of all the money being in digital format on a computer system for a bank, yeah, just destroy the bank and its computer system. Boom, your money's gone. So yeah, I don't know what the church is doing hoarding the money. It's too risky. They know what they're doing, but I don't think they are understanding the full consequences of what's coming. So that's what we need to do, is we need to get together to see who's wanting to go. We need to be able to get all of the supplies that we would need. We need to, I've already got the design and how to build it and how to govern it and the economy for it, which is a non-monetary system. But I need the group to know how we're going to do this. And I do not see this happening anytime soon for this to happen. I don't see enough people so that we can do it. M. Night Shyamalan's The Village was set up so that they had the funding to set up their own little colony, but they chose to lie to their children and future generations to perpetuate a myth of an evil monster creature that would murder anybody who does not conform and comply to the adults of the community, and thus cause the problems. The pit which they dug was the pit they fell into. Coram, brilliant on human behavior. Not like psychologists who do self-fulfilling prophecies to get people to self-fulfill them, which is what you're witnessing across this nation and in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with Mormons. They use fallacy arguments, but that's the threat to the nation specifically. That's why there's all the fighting and all the denialists of science and history and education and sex ed. That's why the church is so against sex ed, is because they know of the problems that it would cause. And so yeah, that's why the church also, failing in 2020, then re-emerged with the attack on sex ed, with the paying off of Islamic government and religious leaders. They're setting everything up. They're trying all different ways to destroy America. It's finally working this year. Hasn't completed yet, but it's finally working. And so the only safe place will be Zion. And I'm the only one on the face of the earth who knows how to design it, build it, and govern it, and run it, operate it. And if there aren't going to be people who are going to gather so that we can get prepared. See, a Mormon spy who tries to infiltrate, yeah, I can easily spot you because you're using Christian interpretation. You're not smart enough to know what the learning of the Jews is, so I'll be able to easily spot you and identify you. I dare you to try it. Russians have tried it in the beginning in 2017 and 18. I found them all and exposed them. Don't think you know better than me. Don't think you can outsmart me. You can't. You don't know the learning of the Jews. You will make a mistake. Like I said, yesterday's video, criminals make the mistake of leaving evidence behind. They have documents, they have forensic evidence, they have financial receipts. There is always something that ties you to the crime. Likewise for Mormons. If you think you're going to be a spy to destroy me, I'm going to expose you real quick and easy. I know how to do it. I know how to expose you. You will fail. See, Richard, he thinks he owned me? Nope. Ad hominem argument. He lost. But he is a coward. He did it online, not to my face. Because if he was standing in front of me saying that I don't like your attitude, therefore your credibility is gone, I would simply point out ad hominem fallacy. Your credibility, you just lost. Easy breezy cover girl. Or maybe it's Maybelline. So, yeah. You will not be safe unless we can get to Zion to get it going. And yeah, it's dangerous right now. There are people who want to murder anybody who believes in the learning of the Jews. So maybe we just have to wait until Mormons are compelled to believe, with the church's destruction. Which, if it doesn't happen anytime soon this summer, we are told it will happen for the election. If it doesn't happen by Islam this summer, or in the coming days, we are told the election will be it. MAGA states will not accept a Biden win. They will deny the election, and they've already told us. They have already seceded from the nation under Biden. They just haven't done it officially, because they're still waiting to see if they can get Trump to be the president again. But if they can't, they're gone. Just like Oregon. They don't want to be a part of Oregon anymore. They want to join with Idaho, because Idaho is their kind of people. Eastern Oregon is Idaho's kind of people. And so Oregon keeps pushing to secede from Oregon to join with Idaho. And so if they are unsuccessful with this election and 3rd Nephi chapter 7, they'll be able to do it. And so the people of Oregon will war against Oregon to become a MAGA state. America will fall. America and the Constitution destroyed. The federal government destroyed. Because Biden is too much of a wuss to do anything about it. He won't step in and do what's needed to save America from the terrorist threats that are seeking to overthrow it. The Supreme Court that overthrew the Constitution, nobody's holding them accountable. Everybody's letting them get away with it. They're about to decide if Trump is immune as president, so that all his court cases go bye-bye, so that he runs for president. If they delay and refuse not to judge, they are siding with him and letting him get away with it. Because if he wins, yeah, he gets revenge and everything goes away and everybody dies. America falls. If he loses, the MAGA states will decertify the election, secede from the nation, refuse to be a part of Biden's America. We already know this is coming. This is the prophecies. They are going to make sure it happens this year because they kept failing. So pay attention in the news. Be very careful. You shouldn't be going to church, but you will expose yourself by standing up to the truth, for the truth, standing against the falsehood. You will be under attack. So do you have honor and integrity? Or are you ashamed? Are you afraid? Like I said, we need to gather so that we can plan, so that we can organize. And I don't see that happening. See, others who have branched off from the church, created their own anti-Mormon, anti-Christ horror congregation, they're able to get organized. Gerald and Sandra Tanner had their church where people could come and meet. And it's right there with the bookstore. And so, yeah, they were able to get people together. Denver Snuffer, yeah, he's got a following. People go to his side. He didn't want to be a leader of a church. He was just preaching doctrines that were completely wrong, and Mormons fell for it. But yeah, he's got a following. He's got groups that meet. The Idaho scandal of the whole stake, that I think Oaks was the one who had to go up and submit to the church's bondage again. That guy, he had a group. I'm the only one without a group. So, alrighty. Yeah, like I said, if the news has something vital that I need to share with you, like last night, I'll do it. If the church falls, I'll cover it. If the church does something that's significant, I'll cover it. But you should know now, everything the church does, everything the church says, everything the church reports on is false. It's based on Christianity. And so no more church news. I'll still be paying attention for my own personal record keeping. But you guys should know now how to identify the errors and falsehoods of the church, the crimes of the church. I'm hoping I've taught you how to learn, so that I don't need to keep doing this in vain, only talking to the choir. And so, yeah, it hasn't happened yet. There's still opportunities to save people. But my channel is still available for people to find the videos. YouTube's gonna shut me down because I'm not continuing to continually do videos and increase subscriptions, but tank on views. This is the off time. I only get views during news coverage or conference. The conference is over. And so YouTube is back on the attack against me. There's nothing I can do about it. They are denying me my agency. They are denying you an opportunity to learn from me and make the choice to leave the church and leave Utah to build Zion. And so, yeah, Stanford, I saw that you were upset about the umbilical cord comment. But you can't just move on your own. We need a group to go together in Southern Illinois. I'm not sure if that's where you said you were going to end up. I hope you didn't say Missouri. It's not Missouri. Missouri is the trap. That's the church's Danite trap. And they failed so far. But, yeah. But, yeah, with this Islamic thing, if the church gets destroyed because of Islam rising, church claims victim, they've got the money, they go build Zion in Missouri, kicking out the Community of Christ and the Temple Lot Church, claiming it's now their land. So I see that as a potential in what they're doing here as a backup plan. So that if they fall in the pit, then they can dig themselves out by claiming that they need federal support to obtain the land of Missouri for their kingdom to rebuild it. But they've got to do it before the election. And they're failing. Not much time is left. And so that's why I'm very curious about Islam in Utah now, is to see how far they're willing to go and if they will be jihadists in the state of Utah. Still waiting for a jihadist movement elsewhere around the world. And in the United States, they didn't do it for Passover. So there are no more Jewish holy days of significance until the fall, right before the election. And so, yeah, that's what worries me, is by not having a group of believers together so that we can know who we are and we can all plan and design, build and leave and so forth. We're going to have situations where Mormons are going to do their own thing according to their own thinking. There are already Mormons who are survivalists, who purposely will fend for themselves. There are Mormons who will try to claim that they're now the leader of the church and everybody needs to follow them. There are those who will try to rebuild Utah. There are those who will go to Missouri. There are those who will go elsewhere in the world, not Missouri, whether to be with family, friends, or places that they know of and have been. And so, yeah, very few people who only know about Southern Illinois from me. Nobody else knows. The enemies know, but they don't believe. But because they know, if they see us, Exodus, they are then the threat to seek to destroy us. So we just have to wait and see what the enemy is able to accomplish, because there's just nobody who believes so that we can do it independently. And so we have to do damage control rather than pre-planning preparation. And so that frustrates me, because I like to be prepared in advance, and I can't, because there's not enough believers. I learned it as a Boy Scout, became an Eagle Scout, according to prophecy. So, alrighty, I guess this is where I say brethren and sister and adieu. Again. So yeah, I'm going to be pissed if I have to come out of retirement, because I'm wanting to delete the saved files from my computer so I can get working on other projects. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the Illuminati. So I'm curious to see if the enemy would do their strike tomorrow, their 9/11 event. So we'll have to wait and see.